Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of First and Last. My name is Josh, and with me this week, we've got Joe.
Hey, man.
And Jimmy.
What is it that is up, dogs?
Nothing much. Just living the internal lifetime, which is 2020.
Did you say internal or eternal?
Whatever, man.
Internal, like you haven't left your house in several months?
Yeah, internal, like you can't leave. Eternal, like, dear Lord, why won't it end?
Internal.
I always like it when people, because I mean, yeah, this is coming out in December, so we're nearing the end of the year. And I always like it when people, every single year, the new year is so fresh, and they're like, oh man, can't wait for the new year. Everything's going to be better and change.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you're going to hear that again coming up to this COVID-filled new year as well. And it's just funny because it's like, like January 1st, 2021, COVID doesn't go away. Like the year's just knowingly going to start out crappy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But 2021 will be better.
Lower expectations. Is that what the moral is here, Josh?
Yeah, I think people put a little too much pressure on the flipping of the calendar. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know exactly when, but like when things are like kind of open up again and people are like cool with hanging out, it's gonna be pretty wild out there.
Yeah.
Like people just going nuts. There's gonna be like nonstop parties. Yeah. Can you imagine being single in like post-COVID times, like,
oof.
Or being single during COVID times even?
I mean, I assume being single post-COVID times for a lot of people is going to be a lot of unplanned pregnancies and single parents.
Rampant disease and babies and whew.
And by disease, I mean STDs.
No longer the virus.
Yeah, it's a whole different virus, really. It's still viral, for sure.
Yeah.
I was going to say that I know several couples that have been coming out with that they're pregnant. So, COVID, got to do something. Have a COVID baby.
Yeah, you're just like 2020. Let's bring a child in this world.
Oh yeah, this looks great. The world's on fire. Why don't we bring another person here to suffer with us? That'll be great.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll get better as they grow up. I'm sure of it.
Can you imagine just like waking up from like a coma right now, or like, I don't know. You get out of like a 20-year prison sentence and you're just like, put me back in. Like, what am I going to do with this?
Well, people in prison definitely know COVID exists because I think they all have it.
Yeah,
and it's not good
exists, but
in
they don't
there.
want to go back out into it.
Oh, yeah.
They're in it. They're just stuck in like a little cage with it.
Yeah, if they don't get it there.
Yeah. God, there was somebody, I can't remember what like celebrity it was, but they didn't know COVID existed for like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like they came out, they were at some like crazy retreat thing, finding themselves in the woods or something. And it was like,
I think
April.
Like it wasn't a celebrity, but it was just like a tweet that went viral on Twitter that like this guy was just like, my boss has like just been in a cabin for 2 months. Like he doesn't even know that Kobe's dead.
Oh,
because he had been gone since like January till March.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Which also like kind of fun, right? Like, yeah, I lived in you didn't have any internet at the cabin or anything. His boss, how did he communicate? Boss was just taking a
sabbatical or something.
Sabbatical?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Doesn't that
people
sound
need
right?
more I feel like every like couple of years people should like be forced sabbatical. Like, hey, 3 months. You just don't work here for 3 months.
I've actually heard of that. I don't know. It's probably like 4 years or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a little bit. I mean, even like 5 years. If you like, hey, if you work at this company for like every 4 to 5 years, you just get a sabbatical. Because like we want you to be we don't want you to kill us or yourself
Yeah.
while you're working.
I mean, my boss took a sabbatical. That must have been like 2 years now. He took like a 6-month sabbatical. And then when he came back, he decided he no longer wanted to live in the United States or work for our company anymore.
Oh,
Yeah, that sounds right.
so backfired a little bit,
Well,
maybe.
I mean, like, good for him though, right? Like, figured out something about himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah.
All right. None of this small talk that's got nothing to do with what we're doing today. Joe, what is this podcast actually about besides the I wish we all had sabbaticals podcast?
Each week we take a single TV show and watch only the first episode, only the last episode, nothing in between. We usually try to make a game out of like making predictions after watching the first episode and seeing if any of that comes true by the finale. It doesn't really pan out usually, but
Not for you.
yeah, hasn't been. But you know, someday there'll be a wedding in the finale.
I feel really good about this for you
Okay.
today, Joe. I feel great. So the show is my show. I've been talking about it for a long time. It's finally over. And together we can watch the last episode. This show's been on for 15 seasons, 327 episodes. I have seen 326 of those, not including the finale. We will be experiencing this together. Me, fully engulfed, and just letting it go and saying it's over, an end of an era. Today we're watching Supernatural, boys.
It's happening.
You got a sound effect for that right there? You gonna edit that in?
Ba-bum. It's on Netflix.
See what you did.
Yeah. So, are you guys excited? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, it went on for a very long time, and it's like about like demons and stuff, right?
Yeah, it started in 2005, when the CW was still the WB.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
It's been on TV longer than the network it's on has existed for.
sweet.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the show. It's called Supernatural. It's on the WB, so I just kind of assume it's Buffy.
Yeah, that's also what I'm picturing.
Yeah, it's starring Sarah Michelle Gellar.
This is
and,
a Joss Whedon, right?
Yeah, Joss Whedon wrote it. No, gosh, I don't really know anything about like the people that created the show. It's created by a guy named Eric Kripke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know,
This was
whoever
his one
that is.
thing. He's a writer on The Boys.
It's his, I mean, he created. It's got to be his one thing, right? I mean, he's been doing it for 15 years. No, not necessarily. He created it though.
He
What did he do?
developed by The Boys. He's got a he was a creator of The Boys.
Mm-hmm.
See, good hands. The show was in good hands
Yeah.
the whole time.
His main
I'm
credits
telling you.
are Supernatural, The Boys, and then a couple like sci-fi shows he had developed for NBC, Revolution and Timeless.
I don't think I've heard of either one of those.
I recognize the logo for Revolution because the O looks like a like computer like power button. That's all I know about the show.
Oh, wait. Maybe I did see that one. I think I saw all of it. It was only like Revolution was only like one season long,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And it was like the power turned off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that. I actually
Like
kind
I
of
can
wish that would
deduce
kept
all
going.
of that from just the logo.
Yeah, and that's what it was. And it was actually, I feel like that one season was pretty good. I forgot that show existed. Huh. I might just was drawn towards it because it had
was,
supernatural vibes. No, there's vampires in
Probably. It was 2 seasons, so you might have another season out there to watch.
Or I just forgot that I've also watched the second season. But we'll find out.
Possible.
Maybe I'll do some research. Apparently, just fun fact, Supernatural in its 11th season became the longest running American live action fantasy TV series. And then it went 4 more seasons.
Live action fantasy. It seemed like there was a lot of qualifiers in that sentence. Can you say that again?
Yeah.
Just live action
American.
fantasy TV. I guess American live action fantasy.
Live action fantasy, left-handed celebrity star.
I would assume the longest live action fantasy series is probably like Doctor Who or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be my guess.
Yeah. And Star Treks don't really count because it's a bunch of different series.
Right. And none of them went over, none of them have gone 15 seasons.
Right.
So there's that. So really quick, guys, I'll let one of you run through maybe what you think the first episode will be about, because I'm very curious on what you think. But this show from day one was starring 2 dudes, Sam and Dean Winchester. They are brothers. They hunt demons, ghosts, and monsters, and etc. Other various ghouls and goblins and whatnot.
Really? So that sounds a lot like Buffy.
Yeah, I'm just gonna assume this is Buffy.
Buffy slays vampires, and every once in a while things get into the mix. But yes, these brothers do fight demons and vampires and whatnot. So in that terms, I guess yes, it is like Buffy. I don't think I've ever really watched this show and thought, man, this is just like Buffy. So I'd be very curious now for you to watch it and tell me exactly why this is like Buffy, and I've just been blocking that out.
I do remember the first episode of Buffy. So I guess to separate it from Buffy, I assume it's not high school anymore. And it's just 2 late 20s to early 30s dudes that are like, this is like their actual like job is to hunt demons and stuff. And I assume like, again, to differentiate it, it's like they live in a world where everybody is aware of that there's like demons and monsters out there. And so they're kind of like, maybe they're not like cops, but they're on the level of like private investigators. Like
demon cops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there's not that many
that.
demons roaming around, but like every now and then you just need to call a demon guy to get rid of it.
Nice.
Yeah. You got your Winchester brothers. You got Constantine.
Mm-hmm.
Constantine's not in this. Just so I don't want to.
Yeah, is this a DC show? It is on the CW.
It was on the CW, yeah. I could see if I'm like, I don't remember this at all, but I could have seen like Constantine being in like one somehow like side episode.
Yeah, when was that show on? Because that's like the literal same thing, and that was also on the WB or CW.
Basically, I would say Supernatural probably over its 15 years encompassed like all forms. So if you think of a monster TV show that has like a thing, Supernatural probably has done it, with one of its episodes or seasons themes. So
Constantine wasn't until 2014.
Okay, so came in 9 years
years.
after, and Supernatural lasted 6 extra years after that.
Yeah.
Does anyone want to throw out what they think these lads are into in the first episode?
I'm gonna disagree with Joe. I think this is exactly like Buffy. I think these guys know that there's demons, and maybe they're just finding out that there are demons. This Buffy starts like she's moved and she already has been the Slayer somewhere else and is moved, and she's like, they're following me or whatever. But I think they are in high school, just because I want to assume that they're like our age now, and 15 years ago they would have been like 20, which means in Hollywood they'd still be playing high schoolers. That's my only rationale. Maybe seniors. I'll give them seniors in high school. Somehow stumble into demons, but the town is not aware.
Okay.
All right.
Also, then an older person comes in and he knows all about them, and he trains them on how to kill them. They call him the seer.
I'm sure you're 100% correct. I mean, let's be honest. I guess I don't exactly remember what happens in the pilot because it's been, I mean, I probably started watching this show when it was in season 9, but that was still over like 6 to 7 years ago, depending on the release dates of it. So I've been watching this show for about 6-7 years. So that's when I probably watched the pilot last.
Do you think you caught up in that first year? Like you watched 9 seasons, and then when did you start watching this in real time?
Probably around season 10 is probably when I started watching it in real time.
All right.
Thank you for the WB website, which will allow you to watch current TV shows, but unfortunately with ads. Oddly enough, though, this show was because of like COVID and the delay and everything. This entire show, even though it ended a couple weeks ago, less than a month, I think, from that when this podcast actually goes out, everything's on Netflix already. Because they released half of season 15 on Netflix, and then they waited, and then it got paused because it was supposed to end forever. It was supposed to end earlier this year, and then everything got, production got put on hold, and then it came back, and then it ended, and then I think almost immediately after it was done, the whole rest of season 15 was on Netflix. First episode, huh? It's all there for everyone's viewing pleasure.
Is it called
I'm
Pilot?
into it.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's called Pilot. Season 1, Episode 1. It's called Pilot. It aired on September 13th, 2005. So let's go back in time and see the first episode of, one of the greatest, longest running American live action, left-handed, tall boy,
one-eyed TV shows.
Monster loving TV shows. We'll see you after that. And we're back. We're done with the pilot of Supernatural that was broadcasted way back in 2005. Jimmy, do you have a write-up?
I do.
Lay it on us.
Supernatural Super Pilot. Sam and Dean Winchester were trained by their father to hunt the creatures of the supernatural. Now, their father has mysteriously disappeared while hunting the demon that killed their mother 22 years ago. Okay, we did not know that.
No, we didn't know that part. Well, I mean, we knew that their mom died, and it was very supernatural, But
yeah.
I mean, there was no knowledge that it was specifically a demon,
Who writes these things?
Someone that has watched a lot of the show already, apparently.
Like I watched, this person watched the full season and then went back to write descriptions of each episode after not having watched it for 10 episodes. I guess now that I read that, then that makes sense. The end of the episode makes sense so we start with Sam and his girlfriend. So the opening is Sam's a baby and his mom dies horribly.
Right. The Netflix description is a little bit better, and it doesn't necessarily give that away, because it says that they're trained by their father, who aims to hunt down the thing that killed his wife.
Okay, well, still.
And I mean, she was pinned to the ceiling and started on fire, while floating in this up. She obviously got killed by something supernatural.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Dad looks up in the in the nursery or whatever, the room where baby Sam is sleeping in his crib, and there is Mom on the ceiling, and then the ceiling is engulfed in flames. And then this pilot episode wraps up with Sam's girlfriend, Jess. Like, he lays down in his bed and blood drips on him, and he looks up, and there she is, stuck to the ceiling, and then is engulfed in flame. So apparently, same deal. Who's to say?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then there was a middle section where they
And then there was
solved,
40 other minutes.
and then where they were looking for their dad. They still hadn't found him at the end. They were hunting a woman in white, or a weeping woman, which is just like a specific type of ghost, I would assume.
I guess.
And then obviously, like, kind of the part of the main plot is Sam wasn't part of the, like, family business of, like, hunting monsters. He went to college and, like, went away, and then he got pulled back in by Dean. Tried to go back after they killed the weeping woman, and then his girlfriend got demon killed on the ceiling with fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that Jimmy gave us the first and last moments of the show. Just like, sticking to the theme.
So we do.
So initial thoughts, boys.
It
was 15 years ago, so you know.
I wrote down this is Buffy because, well, at first because they talked about Sam going to school, and then I realized then they were all of a sudden in a bar, so I was like, shoot, they're not probably not in high school. This is Kansas, but I mean, but probably.
It said when it went back to present day of that time, they were at Stanford University.
Oh, okay, I missed that.
I also did a little calculation of them. I'm pretty sure Dean was 4 years old at the very beginning, and then it was 20, and that was 22 years in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So that means Dean right now would be 26 years old, and Jensen Ackles, the guy who plays him, was like 27, I think, at the time. So they were about the same age. And then assuming that Sam as a baby was like 0 to 1 year old.
Sure.
Yeah, he was pretty close to newborn, yeah.
He then at the beginning of the show would have been 22 or 23. And Jared Padalecki, who plays Sam, was born in 1982, so he would have been about 23. So both of them were playing the age, actually. Oddly enough, they were playing the ages of the people they were.
Okay. So in that case, I feel like, and this is like too early for a prediction, but that just time isn't going to travel the same way in this show as like this is an every year. I don't think Dean's going to be 40 years old by the time we're done. But who knows? Who's to say?
They definitely look like baby boys in this episode compared to the veterans of hunting they look like now in the current season.
I'm sure.
Okay, so you were saying, Jimmy, this is just Buffy. I'm offended,
this is
but
Buffy
keep going.
in the way that it was like Buffy starts and she's like, oh, like I thought I got away from this. Like Sam is like, we grew up like not as kids, as like warriors, and we're like melting silver for bullets and shit.
Mm-hmm.
So the beginnings are had a very similar vibe. Not vampires, but ghosts.
Yeah, trying to lead a normal life. Like Sam's got this thing where he's got this girlfriend, and like it's,
had this girlfriend.
Yeah, like it's getting pretty serious. Like when Dean first shows up and he's like, we got to talk. Sam says something like, no, anything you can say in front of me, you can say in front of her. Which I think is just trying to like emphasize that Sam sees like this girl is like very important, and then he's got this like LSAT law school thing going on. Like he's got like his whole like life ahead of him, and they try to hammer that home. And yeah, up until the end where, because even they go through this adventure about the lady in white, right? And then at the end, Sam's just kind of like, cool, well, like you go find dad, I'm gonna go continue living my life. And then his girlfriend dies in the same way that his mom died, very supernatural like. And then he's like, all right, let's go do this. And it just felt like it felt like a familiar trope. I actually looked it up on like the TV tropes website, and they referred to it as what was it? The call knows where you live, because it's like when you refuse the call to action, but then the call to action still comes back and finds you. Like probably the most famous example of that is when like Obi-Wan's trying to get Luke to like join up with the fight against the Empire, and he's like, nah, I can't really right now. And then like the Empire comes and kills Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru.
He can't go with him. He's got to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
Yep. Well, guess you're going on an adventure now.
Yeah.
Guess since my whole family's dead, I'll go with you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the thing with Sam at the end here is like, well, your life's fucked now, kind of in the same way that your mom died, so guess you should go figure this out.
Might as well chase Dad.
Yep.
Right. I mean, did it fit within, I mean, proper motivations to have a episode 2 at least, you know? Like parts of this aren't, definitely a lot of questions, and the mystery of where his dad is still up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The mystery
I'll be honest,
thing was fun.
I don't think you even see Dad in like present day. I think I don't even know if it's like, do you even see him in the first season?
Yeah, I would guess probably not.
Got to keep that plot alive.
They still haven't found him. Season 15. No, they just keep saying Dad.
Yeah.
I feel like this had it had some, like, it's all like fantasy and stuff, you know, American live action fantasy, but
left-handed.
it was kind of had some like true crime where it was like all these dudes for a few decades, you know, on the same stretch of road, and then it had that kind of like adventure, like they're tracking down Dad, and then they find coordinates because Dean gets arrested. They've got these like he's got this glove compartment. Oh yeah, and we haven't talked about the Impala yet, which I predict
it's the third main character of the show. I'm just telling you right now.
That's literally my first prediction, is that the same Chevy Impala will be there, and it's the third brother.
Yeah, I'm surprised he drove that car into the house at the end.
Yeah, right.
I'm surprised he didn't get yelled at by Dean more. Oh, that's what I'm surprised about.
Yeah, barely a slap on the wrist for that. And the car was mostly fine.
Yeah,
it's an old house. Yeah, it'll be fine. One thing I did notice at some points when the brothers were just like talking to each other, we were like, "Hey, Dean, you should go do this," and he's like, "Oh, okay, Sam." And I was like, okay, the acting in this episode is just okay at times. Like it was a little like, just like you say a line and I'm gonna deliver like the rebuttal line, but kind of like hard, not very.
Yeah.
I can honestly say that definitely gets better.
Yeah, there's a little bit of in their interactions, it's just kind of like you can feel them being like, you know, they bicker, you know how brothers do, you know how brothers are.
And they're trying to figure out how to do that. Yeah. Yep, that's for sure. And then one other thing that I really had to look up, because I remembered when I first saw, especially the beginning seasons, I'm like, this show has really good music, especially with this whole like, they're Kansas boys and they're driving around in an Impala. Like, let's listen to like rock, you know? Mm-hmm. And there just wasn't like any like really noticeable like rock, you know, like music as much in this one. And so I looked up a thing on the Supernatural Wiki, and it says what some of the music was on the original airing, and then what the music is on Netflix. And so there's 3 songs especially that are not in the Netflix episode that were in this first this first episode on the WB when it came out was Ramblin' Man by the Allman Brothers Band,
Nice.
Back in Black, and Highway to Hell by AC/DC were both in this episode. So all three of those songs are not in the Netflix version. So this show definitely got the Wonder Years treatment, where it like lost like its music.
I might have to kill one of my predictions then, because I didn't even think about that. So often, like, we lose soundtracks because of royalty rights,
Right.
like that. So, because I predict, because so there's a whole thing where Sam's giving Dean crap about how he has to upgrade his music in his car, and it's like Black Sabbath and Metallica, and makes fun of it for being mullet rock. And so I had a prediction, but then I didn't even notice that we didn't hear any of that like mainstream stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like, I can tell you for sure that I've heard like Kansas and like Carry On My Wayward Son, that kind of stuff. I've heard that music in this show before. I don't know if that's just licensing from maybe the earlier episodes, and now that like in the past 5 years, like it's gone, like season 10 on, like once the season's done, it's gone directly to Netflix, without almost any, seasons done in June, it goes to Netflix in September or something like that.
They don't have time to pull the music.
Well, I'm just saying in 2005, license agreements for music probably look a lot differently than they do in 2020. It's not like the music they're using on the CW, like earlier this year. They knew that it was going to go to Netflix,
Right.
and you would assume they would have accounted for that. So
Right.
do with what you will with that prediction, Jimmy. But
Yeah, I might as well keep it, right? It's not gonna hurt me. But you got to think, if you're a sound editor, it's probably your job to also just already have that Netflix roll ready to go. You got your network episode, and then you got your ready for stream Bob's Big Band, whatever is track is ready to roll.
yeah, I'd be curious on kind of how the licensing stuff goes for things that in today's day and age that they know.
Yeah.
It's going to be on Hulu right away.
You're probably right, Josh, because I think the last time we ran into this was for like the Wonder Years, and I think what I read was that they had a bunch of licensed music in the show, and that they were able to keep the licensed music in like the DVDs and VHSs, because like that was what was in the contract at the time. Is like like any VHS or recorded media is fine, but like streaming didn't exist when they signed these contracts, so it's just like wasn't covered by the contract, so they couldn't use it. So yeah, I bet if they're making episodes now, that they have that working in the contract.
Sure hope so.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and Netflix didn't start streaming until 2007, so streaming didn't exist when this show aired for the first time. That's how old this show is.
You heard it here.
Still
on First and Last.
I have a fun
FNL
fact.
If you're nasty.
Fun fact about the pilot. It was directed by a guy named David Nutter, who apparently it's like he's based his whole career on just like doing pilots.
Oh, interesting.
Like he's directed other episodes of shows, but like his like bread and butter is making pilots, because he's directed 20 pilots and 19 of them have like gone on to full series.
Whoa.
Including Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
See, no one can say
it. It said most of it. Most of the letters are there. What was the other one that we had watched? There was another one that we had done. Supernatural, of course. Roswell.
Nice.
And then some other notable shows like both.
Did he do Roswell and then he did this nether part of Roswell? Like the redo?
Oh,
when
no,
they came
he did
back?
not. No, he decided that's someone else's job now.
It's like,
but he did both.
Try again.
Both Arrow and The Flash and Smallville, Dark Angel, and like 16 other shows. Yeah.
you know, the hits.
What a guy.
Hey, people like Dark Angel, pretty sure.
Nutter. Put it on the list.
Yep.
Mr. Nutter.
Well, all in all, I mean, I still enjoyed the pilot. It was a little, you know, it's the acting wasn't as pristine as I know this show to be. The music was sad for me, but I but I liked the I like the adventure, the call to adventure, and I want to keep going. But really, I did keep going. So, what are you guys thinking? Would you have let episode 2 roll for you? Did it do enough?
Yeah,
Not
totally.
one of you jump in at don't jump
totally.
in at once.
I was totally in. The first scene alone, like I did not expect how spooky the first scene was going to be.
Yeah, spookier than I expected. Definitely a different vibe to the demons and supernatural stuff than like a Buffy even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am really sad that we couldn't throw this into the spooky month. That was my original plan, was to get this in on spooky month, but COVID once again ruins everything, and the show had to be postponed to finish for a while.
Yeah. And I did not see, there were some twists and turns. I definitely did not see the girlfriend, Adrian Pilecki, aka Bobby Mockingbird from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I definitely thought she was going to be in like at least a couple episodes. Like Sam would be like, Dean, you go off and look for. He got out of the car. He's like, you go. I'm gonna do this law school interview, and I was like, okay, you could draw this out an episode or two and keep girlfriend around. Nope, she's immediately killed.
No, yeah, from the second I saw her in the beginning, I was like, whoever this person is, she's dead.
Oh, come on.
Well, Jimmy knows her from a superhero show, so he assumed she was more important.
Oh, she's in another big show. Hold on. You guys you got predictions
Jimmy,
or something?
Well, Jimmy researches that. Joe, Jimmy wants to watch the second episode. Did it do it for you?
No, not quite.
I didn't think. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just the supernatural thing isn't my type of bag, but it did feel very mid 2000s.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I might be more into like the mid seasons once it gets into like the 2012s or so. I saw that Mick G is a producer.
Mm-hmm.
If you're familiar with Mick G from his like music videos and Charlie's Angels movies, like it did kind of have like a Mick G vibe, and it would have had more of a Mick G vibe if we had the actual licensed music too.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, that whole kind of vibe felt very like early 2000s to me, which isn't the show's fault. It was 2005.
To be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was on top of its game for the year that it debuted, so nothing wrong with that. Who wants to do? Okay, so also what we're going to do for predictions is a little bit weird. Like I said earlier, I've seen every single episode of the show except for this finale. I waited to watch the finale with you guys. So I'm not even going to do predictions. Because I know what happened up until this one, so it's just completely unfair. I'd just be like, Dean's happy, Sam is happy. You know, I don't know.
The car is unhappy.
The car is unhappy. I'm not. I can't even say anything. But so I'm not going to do any predictions. You two are going to throw out your predictions, and then we'll watch the last episode. And then when we're done, I will confirm or deny. Basically, if we didn't see it, I'll even confirm and deny what you guys guessed, if it happened during the show or not. So, but which one of you wants to throw out those predictions first?
Go for it, Joe.
Yeah, I can go. So I have a prediction for each Sam and Dean. I think Sam becomes an angel and like goes to heaven. Like not like he died and went to heaven, but like he like takes up a job as an angel and now he's just like working the door at heaven or something. Like
It's the bouncer.
Okay.
yeah, he's like assigned to heaven to do some angel work up there. I think that Dean stays on Earth. But he's like, I almost said priest, but I don't think it's a full on priest. I think it covers a lot of different faiths. He's just kind of a knowledge keeper who's also celibate.
Man, you don't know Dean very well.
Well, I think that's why it's very surprising that like, oh, this is the new Dean. He's
I just was going
kind
with
of
the
a monk.
celibate part. Really,
yeah, he's giving it all up to hold this knowledge. So
okay.
that's what I think happens to Dean. I think Sam and Dean both, true to their origins, I think they escape a fire in the last episode here. Just seems like a good way to tie it together. And then, yeah, you said that you would give points if we had said things that just happened throughout the show. So
yeah, if I have recollection that it happened, I will let you know because
Yeah.
I have the knowledge.
So I my last prediction is geared towards that. I think that they do an episode on the Hodag. The Hodag is like a mythical creature of the northern Midwest, specifically Rhinelander, Wisconsin. It's like a bull with like spines on its back.
Might have to research that one, but
The Hodag. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Should I go?
yeah. I mean,
Are we-
Joe, I will say this: technically, all of those are possible so far. What you said, I could neither confirm or deny that any of those wouldn't be possible. So
Interesting. Okay. I have. Like I said, I think Dean's still driving around the same Chevy Impala. That's a very important character. I think now we have Sam is finally going to law school. He's going back. I think. I also had Sam was getting married. I think we finally have a wedding, but obviously it's not to Jess, because, well, I mean he deals with demons and ghosts. Maybe it is to Jess.
Demon Jess.
Yeah, who's to say? I've been watching a lot of Buffy and Angel, and everyone's like demons dating humans and humans dating vampires. I have that I think Dean dies in this finale. I think that'd be very controversial, but I want to see it. Throw something out.
Yeah,
2020.
I almost had that.
I will say this as a viewer of the show, I would prefer neither one of them die.
Of course. You don't want it. If this was a Joss Whedon show, he'd be dead.
Yeah.
Or undead. And then I had number 5, I had written down AC/DC as that we'd hear that, and that was before Josh found the thing.
Well, I mean, that still might be completely fine. I think that's still in the running though, just because license agreements for music are much different 15 years later. They know it's coming to Netflix, so if
Right.
AC/DC is cool with it, or more their record label says it's okay.
I feel like I
Then-
hear AC/DC and stuff a lot. Is it super cheap or something? Or they're just like, yeah, give us a couple bucks.
They're
Get a
the
pack of
cheapest. They're the
cigarettes.
cheapest of the rock band of the mullet rock bands, according to Sam. And so that means just everyone uses them. So that's how they cornered the TV market.
Yeah.
That's just I'm just making that up. Okay. Well,
Smart.
guys, I'm excited. We should do this. Let's dive into the 327th episode, the finale, Supernatural. It premiered November 19th of 2020, so not too long ago. Less than a month. It's called Carry On. We'll see you after
It's
that.
gonna be Kansas.
It's probably going to be Kansas. All right, everybody, we're back from that emotional roller coaster, that end of an era, the genre-defining show, Supernatural. It's over.
Oh man,
We finished the finale. Carry On, which just a really quick, fun trivia is Carry On is a reference to the refrain from the show's unofficial theme, Carry On, Wayward Son. If for some reason you didn't know what that reference was from. Jimmy, do you have a write-up for this?
Yeah, I'll just do the Netflix write-up says, in the series finale, Sam and Dean investigate one last case, then confront where their respective roads are going to take them next. Dun dun dun. So they is there anything before they start looking into the case? There's a big recap that I didn't understand.
So essentially the big recap, just to let you know of the ending thing, is they were trying to take down God, because God was he was bored with the universe, and he went around and destroyed every planet and Earth that he had made throughout, like, the multiverse, essentially. And the only planet that was left was that Earth. And then the kid named Jack, who they referred to a couple times in this episode. Jack is the son of a human woman and the devil, Lucifer. So he is a what's that? Got it. Now I can't remember the name of the creature angel he is.
A demigod.
Well, so he's the only thing powerful enough to kill God. Like, God fears that, because it's an angel with a soul, because he had a human mom. So they defeat God by, like, essentially taking all of his power and making him useless. So he's just like a dude now. And then the Jack guy went and he fixed stuff. So when Dean died and went to heaven, when he was sitting down with that guy, that's when he was explaining to him, like, why they were all there, because heaven was, like, super messed up, and basically people were just, like, in, like, rooms reliving, like, their best memory kind of thing, and now heaven's like a hangout and actually, like,
chill vibes,
have a good time and, like, enjoy yourself kind of thing, like heaven, should be. So that was what happened at the end. In the beginning was the recap of them basically defeating God. So that beginning of this episode was them, like, trying to be normal and not do anything.
Mm-hmm. It was showing a montage of, like, their, like, morning routine of just, like, making breakfast, doing laundry, very normal stuff.
And, like, a song like Ordinary Man or something like that was, like, playing.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, some Van Morrison montage, classic.
Yeah.
Then they go to a pie festival, and
exactly.
And then vampires.
And then they still find a hunt, because even though God's gone, well, technically there's a new God, like that Jack kid that you guys never really saw. He is a big character for the last couple seasons of the show. He is basically the new God, and he tried to set everything right, and then he just, like, left. Because the old God was had his hands in everything and was messing everything up. So then they went to the vampire place, and first off, they ran into Jenny, who they referenced her, and I looked her up because I was like, I don't remember this person. It was 14 years ago. Jenny was in episode 20 of season 1.
Whoa.
And it was on there. She turned into a vampire, and that episode was Sam and Dean's, like, first vampire hunt they ever did together, I think, is what it was.
Man, I can't believe neither of us predicted vampires, Joe. Ridiculous. Just out there. But so Dean, he killed God, and then, like, the next day he just gets killed by a vampire.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like unceremonious, but also kind of a running thing. Like both of those brothers in this show have died a couple times. Like Dean has died like at least twice and been brought back for reasons. And so there's a big thing about how like Death's book, like Dean's gonna die kind of thing. And so he died hunting, and that's kind of how everyone knew he was gonna die.
Yeah. So they were living a normal life, but then they like go on just like another random hunt, and they do set it up like kind of like a normal episode would, where they show these monsters, these vampires like terrorizing a family, and then that leads into the brothers going to investigate it. And they like, show up at this barn to fight these vampires, and the fight's going well. And then there's like this like rusty like iron.
It's like rebar.
Yeah, like rebar sticking out of a pole that Dean gets squished into. So he's essentially like got this rebar through his back. And at the end of the fight, then Sam goes to him and he's like, all right, let's get out of here. But Dean's like, no, I'm actually like kind of stuck. I'm like stabbed in the back right now. Which I remember like they like telegraphed that part about him getting like impaled by the rebar.
Mm-hmm.
They telegraphed the rebar, but I thought like maybe the big vampire guy was gonna get like rebarred.
Yeah,
And that's why
I
they were
thought that
telegraphing
too.
it.
Mm-hmm. They telegraph it, and then you see him. You don't actually see it go through him, but you see him like wince. And just the entire time I thought it was gonna be fine, because it was just sort of a matter of fact. It was just like, hey, here's this rebar. Oh, he got hit in the back, and like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It just gave me the impression, and because it's a supernatural show, I thought like, well, people probably die and come back in the show. It's probably fine.
I mean, yeah, and if you've been watching it, they have died and they have come back, but
Mhm.
it's been a really big deal, and it's caused a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So that's why he also said like I'm done. Like when I die, I'm dead. Don't bring me back. Like he said that to him.
Yeah, because Sam's like, okay, well, like, let's take you off this thing. Let's get you help. And Dean's like, no, like this thing's holding me together. And then he's like, okay, well, I'll figure something out. And Dean's like, no, let's not do that either.
Yeah, I mean, like technically, like
there.
the current god is like they're like surrogate dads to like the current god essentially. So they probably could have figured something out.
Sure.
We live in a
And their best friend
supernatural world.
isn't-
They can figure something out.
Yeah. And their best friend, who he was in most of this show, actually. His name was Castiel, or they kept saying Cass in this episode.
Mm.
He's an angel. And that was like, he was in that show for like 8 years, at least, I think.
Somebody could have done something.
Yeah.
I also thought like, because I totally called it, and I was like, but I looked at the time and it was only like 18 minutes into the episode. I was like, there's no way. Like
That's another thing too, where just like the scene kept going, and I was like, but he's not dead, right? Like we're only halfway through this episode.
Yeah, there's so much time left. There's no
I
way.
literally
ends.
checked the like the time scroll on my phone, and I was like, there's like 20 minutes left. Like what? This isn't happening.
Yeah, but I mean, like that scene of like when they were done fighting to when like essentially Dean was dead, that was really
pretty
long.
long.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They really spent a lot of time, and for a second I was like, this is too long, and then it like kept getting more and more intense,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
kind of thing, of them like talking, and I was like, oh man, they're really doing a good job with this. And then after he died, they switched to Sam being sad, like in the bunker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they show him going through the morning routine again, except it's just him now. Him and the dog, I guess.
Yeah, oh yeah. So the dog's from the last episode. That's the first time we ever met that dog.
Okay.
By the way, that dog was called Miracle because God got rid of all the people, every living creature on Earth, except for Sam and Dean. But then in the second to last episode, they found a dog, and Dean was like, "It's a miracle. He missed somebody. Like maybe there's other people." And so he just named the dog Miracle.
Nice.
So it's only been in 2 episodes, but it was like Dean's dog, obviously then.
Funny.
But Yeah, I liked how they went to Sam then and made it go like, yep, he's dead, and like we're gonna like the next 20 minutes are gonna be like, I don't know, Sam going on a call
by himself.
Yeah, and that brings me to when the phone call, and he got a phone call from Dean's other cell phone,
Mm-hmm.
which is I think something they reference like jokingly kind of throughout the show. But when he answers, like the guy was like, "Is this Agent Bon Jovi?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They always do throughout, more so in the first or the earlier seasons when they were doing like monster hunts a lot more. But when they would go to like a small town and they use their like fake badges, they'd be like, "Oh, this is Agent Swift and Kanye." Like they would just say people's names, like a bunch of old rocker duets. In this episode, he called one of the local police, Mulder and oh no, that was the first episode.
Yeah.
He called them Mulder and Scully. And then in this episode, they used Singer and Kripke, which are the executive producers of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So they usually their names are just like rock stars and are that they use. Like their angel friend who didn't understand stuff. He like one time said like their names were like Spears and Beyonce or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're like Agent Beyonce. Like they were making fun of him.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So they have Sam do the montage, but it's just by himself, and then he gets this call to look into. I don't even remember what it was, but they just had some victims that had their hearts ripped out or something. So
Yeah.
It was another like supernatural call, but he's just by himself now, which I think is supposed to.
I thought they were just gonna do that and just show that like, hey, now that's just Sam like fight like doing it alone.
Well, and I thought too that like, because again, there's 15 to 20 minutes left in the episode. I thought that this call was either going to be Dean or somebody who's like, hey, I could bring Dean back or something.
Right.
But no, it was just another mission.
Yeah, it was a good way for them to like say goodbye to like the space they were in too. They were in like a bunker, which has a lot to do with the lore of the show, and they were there for a really long time, multiple seasons as well. So kind of gave them an excuse to like say goodbye. That's how they said goodbye to that place.
Yeah. It was just kind of interesting that it's like it wasn't some sort of like big bad that like killed one of the main characters. It was just sort of like It was just another mission. It was bound to happen. This time it just happened, and then you just keep going.
Yeah. I mean, he even said it. He was like, I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't think it was going to be today. When like Dean was dying, he said that.
Yeah. He's just like, well, just happened to be today. It just was a normal mission. We're out hunting monsters. Like this was going to happen.
Yeah. And then we see Sam just live out his life.
Yeah, I thought everything. I liked the entire episode. I even liked the unceremonious death of Dean, and like then them giving us a little bit of a sad Sam before they were like, Dean's in heaven and he's doing great, kind of thing. Because I feel like if they would have done it the opposite way of showing Dean in heaven and then showing sad Sam, it wouldn't have like hit home as much.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been as powerful. I was like fine until it was like kind of old Sam, where like kind of gray-haired Sam, but very like handsome, chiseled, young jawed man sitting in like the car, like remembering and being sad.
Yeah, so they do,
and then
they show Sam being sad, and he picks up that mission and carries on, and then they cut to Dean in heaven, finding out that it's just like a chill place where you can hang now, and Dean gets in the car and goes for a drive, and then during that drive we get a montage with Carry On My Wayward Son playing of Dean just driving around in heaven, but like what's his name, Sam, like continuing to live another 30-40 years, and like he has like a family and stuff, and he gets older, not very convincingly.
No, he's too much in the prime of his life, and they used amount of makeup as they could apparently to make him look old.
But yeah, he ages up, eventually dies of old age, and then Dean and Sam meet up again at the end. And they're just like, "Hey man."
Hug it out, bro.
Another thing you guys wouldn't know, but which is kind of a fun nod for the watchers, is when Sam's son was like saying goodbye to him, like on his deathbed, and it showed his like tattoo on his forearm. That's their like hunter tattoo that both Sam and Dean have, and like their dad had and stuff. It's a tattoo so they can't get like possessed by demons. It like makes it's like a ward.
So it
they have.
implies that.
So it implies that his
Sam's
son is a hunter as well now.
Yeah.
Noise.
I also like that the first time we see. I mean, I assume Sam's son is not a character previously in the show.
Wait, say that
Since
again?
we flash forward.
Yeah, Sam's son. Sam didn't have a kid in like present day in this show, right?
No, the first time
Okay.
we saw that kid was right after he was dead. And it was like when he was with that kid, that boy that had overalls that just said Dean on the front
Yeah,
to like
that's what I
show
was
you
gonna
like,
say.
hey, look, he had a kid and he named it Dean.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like the first clip we see of Sam in the montage was playing with a little kid who has just Dean written on his overalls. It's like they couldn't find any other way to like get this across.
There was there was about 3 things in this episode I was like, man, all of this is like a really good way to like send me off. I'm actually really enjoying it as a lover of this show, but there's a couple things that I'm like, I think you just rushed it and maybe you needed to tweak it. One was Sam's old makeup because that was just silly. One was overalls with Dean on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, this part was good when Dean in heaven turned on the Impala and like Carry On My Wayward Son was playing and he like drove away and he was driving and was like, yeah,
that's great.
like rockin' Impala. This is what this show does. And then it was like done. And then now they're like, and then Sam was dying. And then it was just a lady singing a cover of Carry On My. It's like, pick a different song or something.
I also did not like that.
Yeah, I was awful.
Especially after like just the uppers of the original Carry On My Wayward Son. Like great song, like fun, especially for just like that type of montage, and then to just bring it down with this like weird like moody
Slow
cover.
jam.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like also like it could have been a slow jam, but it just didn't need of the exact same song.
Yeah.
That's weird. I don't know.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Oh, okay. I also wanted to know the license plate of the Impala, by the way, is Kaz 2Y5. And apparently number one, apparently that's the second license plate the car had. I didn't know that. But Kaz stands for like the boys' home state of Kansas. And then 2Y5 is like the year 2005, which is when the show premiered. So that's what the license plate of the car in this episode represented.
Nice.
I don't know how long it's had that license plate.
I assume there's a lot of Kansas, the band, music in this show because they're from Kansas.
Yeah, I mean the base thing that they were in, they're in Lawrence, Kansas, is like essentially where the show's based. So they're in Kansas, and then it's just like X-Files, you know, there's a monster in Minnesota, there's a monster in Washington, and then they just drive to wherever they need to go. But
Nice.
they were always in Kansas for the most part.
All right.
So yeah.
So at the very end they're in heaven and Dean, who still has his Impala in heaven, he drives and he stops on this bridge.
Yeah.
And then Sam dies and then he appears on the bridge. Is that bridge significant? Do you see that?
I was trying to like rack my brain if I thought it was, but I really don't think so. I mean, somebody
it was
that
a
like
different bridge than the pilot.
Yeah, it wasn't that bridge either. They mentioned the pilot though, which is fun.
Oh, that's right, they did.
Yeah, I don't think so. I just don't think that
Right.
is anything. But
Yeah, just a heaven bridge.
Oh, I mean, basically they just. I'm reading the Supernatural wiki, and it just says like um significant scenes in the pilot also occurred on a bridge.
Okay. So because there was
Cool.
a bridge,
So I think
it was a
yeah.
nice bridge.
So I think just maybe like, I mean, hey, we're not gonna. You don't have a reason to use the same. Also, they're wearing. I didn't notice this, but they're wearing when they meet up back in heaven. They're wearing similar outfits to what they wore in the pilot. I mean, they always wear like, like denim and
The same
Carhartts
stuff.
and like flannel and stuff. So
They got
always
their uniform.
they
yeah.
always look like they're wearing the same thing pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
So
Voices are deeper and more Kansas in this episode.
yeah, who knew that you
Matured
could just
a little bit.
you can be in a TV show for 15 years and turn out to be just like just way more manly and handsomer the whole.
All the monster hunting make us more grizzly.
I just want to eat pie, Sam. So I mean, besides those three things that I thought were pretty dumb, but they were small and I could overlook them. I enjoyed the finale. I was good with it. I'm wondering if how other people that watched the whole show thought about it. I liked that it kind of seemed business as usual, and then it took that turn of being like, "You're dead," and then it just it kind of rushed the reuniting, but wanted to end on a good note, which is everyone being dead. Apparently, was the good note, but knowing this show, that was fine. They were in heaven, so
Yeah.
What did you guys think?
Yeah, again, like missing the middle. It definitely seems like they, on that previously on, there was a lot of like zapping and something about God. So it seems like there's a really big like storyline that was wrapped up in that second to last episode, which is, not unsurprising. So like this one just kind of serves as like a wrap up for the main characters. And I think it is, it is an interesting idea that they just, one of the characters dies on just the next mission, like just a one-off, which I think is an interesting idea for this type of show. And yeah, the idea is about that the other brother just needs to like carry on, and I think that's where they are trying to go with like the title of the show, is that like, hey, like this stuff just happens and you just need to like keep moving because like you said you would. So that's kind of an interesting part of the show too. You could see like other types of shows that are like this, like where something big like that happens and then the other brother would just quit and do something else.
Yeah, I could have seen a lot of other shows ending on the last episode where they beat God, and then the last 5 minutes were just them being like business as usual, or like let's move on, and that would have been the last 5 minutes of the big epic show. But instead, they decided to put like the final fight and then save time for wrapping up with the main two characters.
All of the stuff in this episode just makes it feel a little more human in a weird way, especially for like a sci-fi show, that it's just like, well, just one day you just die. Like maybe it's not vampires, but like one day you're just going to die and it's going to be unremarkable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Considering that in the second to
Mm-hmm.
last episode, the devil died, Michael and Archangel died, and God got his powers taken away. That's all that happened in the... Oh, and all of the creatures on Earth were restored.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Of course. Immediately. I was going to say I liked how Dean... So he got killed like by a vampire essentially, but it wasn't like he got bit. It was just like he stumbled backward into this thing. like that's
he
just,
barely got killed by a monster.
This is just what happens. Maybe this is a very 2020 ending, It's like, people you just die. And everybody else, you got to just keep going,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
They said
But
there
there's
was
crappy beer in heaven, so you're good.
I mean, but it's like good at the same time. You know,
It's a good memory.
it's like nostalgic crappy beer.
And you still got your nice car. I don't know.
That's what counts.
I'm into it. I think man, 300 and some episodes for a 45-minute show. That's a tall order to think like, oh yeah, I'll just hit number 2. Hit episode 2 of 300.
I will say that this show is one of the more daunting shows that we've ever had for someone that's never seen it. Like, oh, do you want to start watching it? I mean, unless you're just like, man, I got a lot of time and I really, really, really want to like get sunk into something. 327 45-minute episodes.
Yeah.
Maybe 2021, you know, just every day I'll just knock out an episode of.
Exactly. There you go. New Year's resolution. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that we kind of like put a final grade on these first and last by like, would you watch the show or not? And I think this is an interesting case where like I'm absolutely not going to watch this show, but I thought it was a good first and a good last.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it doesn't happen much.
Yeah. But that's a good thing in general. You might not watch the show based on a lot of things. Like it might not be your genre, and it also just like the amount of episodes. But I think at least from what you're saying, it sounds like you have faith in the fact that it was probably at least a okay show for people that are into this stuff. It does a lot of the same things as a lot of other shows, but obviously even you saw in this like last episode and in the first one, it does stuff its own way too.
It had an interesting idea in the finale, and a lot of times that's like good enough for me.
Right. Apparently this show was only supposed to go 5 seasons long.
Man.
That was the original plan. It was only supposed to be a 5-season show.
Must have made some money. On CW for 15 years, I don't know how I never saw a single episode of this.
Yeah, that's impressive. You were jumping around just avoiding it like the plague.
I mean, there's so many like CW shows to keep up with. Like, it's hard enough to do that. Let alone try to start new shows that have 300 episodes.
Well, I'm glad you guys could sort of go on this journey with me.
Yeah. We didn't really get your take. I mean, as someone who has watched the show, do you think it was a satisfying ending?
I liked it. Yeah, like kind of like I said, like those 3 like little nitpicks or whatever about the silly things. And I honestly think some of that is COVID related and just the year that this show ended. I know they had to postpone production, and I'm not 100% sure that this show technically ended how they were planning on ending it based on everything. So I think they kind of did what they had to do. I heard like rumblings, and I'm not going to jump in and try to do research, but I feel like Jensen Ackles, the guy who played Dean, kind of mentioned that like, no, this isn't technically how we planned on it, but like we are planning on ending the show. So we're going to do it. I mean, I liked like they spent a lot of time with Dean dying, and I enjoyed the way they took it with that, and not something crazy. And I'm glad, like, having known that what they did in the last episode, that it wasn't just like God strikes back again or something like that. Like, you know, like the killer stands back up for one last attack. I kind of liked it was business as usual, and then all of a sudden it was not. So I really enjoyed this last episode. I thought it was good. Could have been a little bit better, sure, but I think it was fantastic. I'm going to miss those boys. So, yeah. That's what I got.
Did you cry? Was it our first cry?
I don't think I didn't cry, but there was like a little well, you know, like
one of these days
I felt feelings.
We're all going to weep.
I was sad. It was it's one of those things where it's like a character dies, but then But then I'm like, well, I mean, I know heaven exists in the show. He's fine.
Yeah, there's that.
They're best friends with God and an angel, like the new God and an angel. I think they'll be fine. But I felt bad for Sam. That's why they couldn't kill them both at the same time.
Would have been too much.
Right. Well, do you guys want to go through your predictions?
No.
Dude, Joe.
Come on, Joe.
Man, I just I feel bad because I was this close to being like Dean dies because I just think that would have been a dramatic moment, but I was like, well, like it's a supernatural show, like they probably just don't have characters dying like that and having an impact, but they proved me wrong. So
in all fairness, Joe, I would not have, if I was going to make predictions, I would not have predicted that either one of them died. I would have predicted they both would have stayed alive. So, and I would have been wrong twice. So,
yeah. So I said that Sam becomes an angel and goes to heaven to like serve out his angel duty. He does go to heaven eventually, but just as like a visitor, a guest,
as a normal inhabitant.
Yeah, he's a resident. I said that Dean becomes like a celibate, like knowledge keeper, which is not the case.
There's 3 things that Dean loves, just FYI, and that's like food, beer, and women. Or and Paula and his mullet rock as well. I guess if you want to do the 5 things that Dean loves,
would have been an interesting turn. I'm just saying.
It really would have.
I said that Sam and Dean escape a fire, which they didn't. And then my like show prediction was that they did an episode on the Hodag.
I did research on that, and I didn't see anything.
Yeah, you didn't remember it. And I did do the research, and like I did. There was like some like Wisconsin website that was like all the times that like Wisconsin was mentioned on Supernatural.
Oh,
and,
really?
like the first thing was like, so they didn't do the Hodag, but
Oh, really?
yeah. So I confirmed that they definitely did not do the Hodag.
Oh, it's a bummer.
So
That was very possible. They did so many other weird monsters.
Had they had a 16th season, for sure.
Hodag for sure.
Hey, give it everything comes back eventually. So
Did X-Files do the Hodag? They did like the Chupacabra and stuff like that.
yeah, they did like the Jersey Devil.
They did the Hodag on an episode of like one of the reboots of Scooby-Doo.
Nice. All right, my predictions. I had that the Chevy Impala was still around and important, and it was they took it to heaven. So, yeah, I guess. Sam, we didn't see him going back to law school. Seems like he's just doing his hunting thing. Which, how is that a job, by the way? How you buy a house? They making money doing this?
Well, in the first episode, they pointed out that they would essentially like do credit card fraud and stuff like that to do that. Eventually, I think it was when they found the bunker and stuff. They found there was just like funds. There's like a whole There's this thing called the British Men of Letters, and it's a whole thing where it's like it's basically like MI6 but monster hunting.
Nice.
Right, so well, I think they found an income essentially, a more like on the level one, but not really.
Sure. Then I thought Sam would be getting married in this episode, and like he had a family, but like we didn't see like a wedding or anything like that. It wasn't like part of the plot. I don't know.
I mean, I would have taken that more from what you said as like Sam was getting married, not Sam just is married at some point in this episode. But you can let me know what your
I mean, that's what I wrote. Sam getting married.
Yeah.
And that's not really exactly what happened.
There was a lady standing behind him at one point, presumably was the mother of his child. But
yeah, a blurry woman in the background, in the foreground, while he's playing with Dean.
Dean 2.
Very obvious. Dean 2 son. Then I had Dean dies. So crushed it.
Dean did die.
I felt so horrible about that prediction, that whole scene that was like 10 minutes long. Because at first I'm like, okay, this isn't happening because it's too early and it's too bizarre. And then as it went on, I was like, no, now this is just, I feel horrible about this whole thing.
Were you thinking? Were
This
you the
is
whole
really
time?
depressing.
The whole time you were like, I made this happen. I did this to this man.
Man, yeah,
Were you
And
the
then I-
vampire wearing the mask, Jimmy? Did you do that?
that was me.
Knew it.
Yeah, surprise. I'm a vampire and like 7 feet tall. And then I thought AC/DC would be one of the old rock songs, and it was not. We had lots of Kansas, and we had Van Morrison, and I think Dire Straits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked it up. It was Dire Straits
Yeah.
during the sad scene.
And then whoever the hell that lady was that ruined the Kansas song
Yeah.
right after the good Kansas song.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that just like a made for this?
I was wondering that
Episode,
too.
maybe?
If that was just a cover made for the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Take this song and make it sad.
I'm not sure. I'll be honest. I mean, I'm sure in a way it's probably a good cover. It's just like it was presented so poorly, and I have no time for that, so I'm not looking that up.
I was trying to give it the benefit of the doubt of like, okay, let's like symbolically change the genre of this like song that's very important to the show to like show that we're moving from like happy to like in heaven to Sam slowly dying. Like, I don't know. But whatever. It didn't really play.
Yeah, it didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think that one landed. Well, listeners, you can let us know if you think that song landed or not. You can hit us up at F&L on the podcast, F&L podcast on Gmail, also on Twitter. We would love show suggestions from you. I would be okay with all Supernatural fans tweeting at us and telling me your favorite parts and why, whether or not you liked this finale or not. I'm very curious if people liked it. I thought it was good. Little nitpick, but interesting. Love to hear from you. But besides that, we'll be back next week for yet another First and Last. Also, subscribe and 5 stars. We'll see you then. Goodbye.
Peace.